All right, howdy hacksters. Welcome to Throwback Thursday. I am very excited about today's show. So as my friend Mohib pointed out, it is the 100th anniversary of the word robot. There's lots of articles about this, but you can find the etymology on Wikipedia, which is linked in the description below, as will all of these things be. So if you're curious about any of the stuff I bring up, just scroll down a little bit and click. So I thought that I would celebrate this by my new hobby, which is designing PCBs. And particularly, I've been playing around with a resource called oldbookillustrations.com. We got robots, we got old books. It's super throwback time, but also we're mixing it with modern art in a cool way. So PCBs, if you're not familiar, are printed circuit boards, like this beautiful example from someone called Alex, also, who goes by Diode Red, and that's linked in the description as well. I've featured this one before. It was given to me by Drew Festini of Osh Park. Thank you so much, Drew, a long time ago. But it's just so beautiful and fine that it's really inspired me for a long time, and I've featured it on the show before. So I found that really inspiring, and I've been trying to get my head around the process of designing PCBs. I've designed very simple ones in the past, but oh my goodness, it is such a steep learning curve, in my opinion. Designing PCBs, I've started learning it a few different times in Kycad and Eagle. Eagle is great, but Kycad is open source. They're both about the same difficulty, in my opinion, and about the same learning curve and about the same power. People who do this stuff super professionally, making PCBs for their job as mega engineers, may disagree. And if you have your own opinions about which ones you prefer for which applications, please drop a comment below. But yeah, so we've done this workshop with our friend Andrew Soa a long time ago about how to do art PCBs in Kycad. And I've recently been teaching myself how to do that, but with halftones, which is how you get this kind of beautiful resolution on here. If you can see, it's made of tiny little dots, similar to old school printing or magazines or zines that you would see, where instead of having shading, if you only have the ability to make black and white, you can turn it into little dots. And then by using larger or smaller dots or closer together or further apart, sort of like pointillism, you get a beautiful gradiented image, even though you're only using black and white. And that's how you're able to do different layers overlapping with each other. This one has halftones on the silk screen and copper layers and solder mask layer. It's really incredible. It's so beautiful. So for today, in celebration of 100 years of robots, I decided to make a PCB with an image from the War of the Worlds. There is this wonderful website called Old Book Illustrations, and this is something that I kind of want to just hold on to and not share because it's so special, but I'm going to share it with you because you're amazing and you deserve it. It basically is a ton of public domain images that you can grab and use for your own art. So in this case, this one is from the War of the Worlds. It's by a guy called Henrique. I'm not sure. I'm definitely not saying that right. It looks like Portuguese. And yet, look at this amazing, striking image of these are, I don't know if these actually qualify as robots. They're technically aliens in a robotic shell, kind of like the Daleks, where they have like an alien brain inside a big grayish rounded bulk. Look at these amazing images. I'm going to click on the 1600 pixel one so we can zoom in. So that's what they look like on the inside. And it's so good. These pictures are amazing, and you can put them on PCBs. I basically turned this into a halftone. We'll take a look at the PCB in a minute, but I wanted to share this resource with you because if you're looking for something for your Throwback Thursday, looking for cool pictures of old robots and things, oldbookillustrations.com is a great place to go for resources. And in fact, I just created a PCB using another image from Dante's Inferno, which people seemed pretty excited about. You can rotate it and move it around to make it fit really nicely on your PCB. And a lot of these are engravings or woodcuts or super old school pictures that were only in black and white. And so you don't even have to process them in order to make them black and white. And linocuts and things like that are already really friendly for turning into a PCB because they're already complete black and white. And the engravers have done the shading for you in like cross-hatching and stuff. So it's already complete black and white, not even grayscale. But then sometimes you get something like this, which does have grayscale. And in this case, I have turned it into a halftone image using Photoshop. And I'm going to do some information or a show on that later on, at a later time. But for now, let's take a look at the PCB in Kycad. I haven't yet ordered it because I want to, I just finished putting it together. It's not, I am a beginner. So I know that there's, this circuit is not perfect. With that caveat, I wanted to show you what I've got, and I'm going to check it over another couple more times before I actually submit it to OshPark. But here we go. So this is what you end up with when you put something like that into Kycad. So if you can see, if I turn off a bunch of the other layers, you end up with just this kind of image here. You can see that I have inverted it and I've turned it into a bunch of tiny dots in Photoshop. Well, they're not exactly dots, but you can see that you're achieving shading through plain black and white binary layers. Yeah. So in this case, it's going to be white solder mask or silkscreen contrasting with the purple solder mask underneath. And if you get OshPark's After Dark service, then it is black PCB substrate with clear solder mask, and the silk screen will pop even more against the black background. But yeah, one thing I like to do is really try and place the components around the design where they'll look really nice. So I've got this sort of button up here on the back. I've got a resistor on the back. I've got an LED on the front, but it's sort of hidden under the silk screen here. And then this red bit here is where it lines up with that beam, the hissing beams coming out of the creature's ray gun. And the circuit here is one that I have worked with a lot. And it's a very simple circuit that's just designed to test LEDs and CR2032 coin cell batteries. So far I've been using this breadboard. This is actually something I put together a few days ago. It's way more pro than my previous solution of just holding a couple of jumper wires onto a coin cell. Now I can actually, you hold the coin cell into here, and then you get, you get your LED to turn on, if it's a good LED and if it's a good battery. Then there's a further level where I decided to put a button in the loop so that you can test the button as well. And basically turned this into a PCB so that I have all these 100 ohm resistors. I have a bunch of random LEDs that came from who knows where, workshops and kits gone by. And I'm using these 6mm LED buttons, tactile switch, push buttons, momentary switches. So clicky. And in Kycad, I'm using these SparkFun libraries, which you can download from GitHub and then install into Kycad so that you have all of these things already neatly laid out with their schematic symbols and footprints already associated. But I have been making some of my own. More on that later. Yeah, right? And I still am not sure that they qualify as robots. They are aliens inside of robot shells, but I think that's close enough for today. Oh, yeah. I also wanted to show you... it's not just War of the Worlds out here. There's also... Oh, we're still on the Kycad window. We'll come back to that. But for now, I wanted to also show you that we have stuff from The Wizard of Oz. Illustrations of the Tin Man. I want to use this in something as well. There's all these amazing, just ancient interesting, really striking images in this archive. And so I think it's an absolute treasure of a resource. This one, in fact, looks like more of a woodcut or linocut. So if I cut out the parts that I didn't want, and there's a little bit of color shading in here, but you could very easily adjust the levels in this image so that it's black and white, and erase any parts that you didn't want and turn that into a really nice PCB. And I have dibs. Anyone can do this, but I want to announce my plan to use this one in particular because it's awesome. There's so many cool images on this site, though. Oh, I spent way too much time looking at it. But yeah, really excited to get this board in a couple of weeks. As I said, it's another one from that same archive. And so while this PCB art workshop talks about using Adobe Illustrator to create different regions of color, again, you can use this sort of archaic process used for printing called halftone to make really pretty PCBs. I wanted to show you one more thing on the PCB. So Kycad has this 3D viewer option where you can sort of preview your design. And if you set the colors to the ones that your manufacturer uses, or to, Oshpark always has this sort of purple, white, gold color scheme, but you also have the After Dark option with the black FR4 and the clear solder mask, and then also flex PCBs, which are like an orange substrate. But then you can sort of drag it around. This takes a long time to render in Kycad because it's tons of tiny little polygons. Kycad has this importer that you use to convert a regular image into, there are a few different layers that you can choose. You can choose a silkscreen layer, a solder mask layer. There's a couple of other ones, I think a user drawing layer. You can't select a copper layer, but Andrew, in the workshop linked below in the description, does talk about how to use this process on other layers. So if you wanted to do a diode red style one with really custom halftone designs on all the layers, you can convert, you can export from Kycad into a footprint file on either the silkscreen or solder mask layer, and then you can open it in a text editor and change it to be the copper layer as well. So you can get more layers than exist in the Kycad importer, but even so, that they even have a tool that does that is really cool. And there's some other really cool open source tools that we'll get to as well. SVG to Shenzhen allows you to make really complex edge cuts type things. So if you wanted this to actually be in the shape of a flower, you could probably do that. You can do cutouts and things. So far, recently, I've only been playing with pretty basic outlines, but let me grab this other one actually. But you have the option to use the edge cut layers to make more complex shapes and things like that. So this is sort of using a filled zones option in Kycad to make these shapes. I made little hand-drawn lightning bolts and stuff. And this edge cuts layer is also done in Kycad just by hand. Yeah, so there's tons of options. I'm gonna be really excited when this PCB comes in and I'm able to test it out. It's got a little hole in the top corner, you can see there, for like a keychain, and you'll be able to just have some right angle little headers go in there, so you can stick any PCB in. Then you'll be able to stick any coin cell in as well. It'll be really simple, and then you'll be able to test your batteries and your LEDs and have a really cool little keychain piece that shows off your love of alien robots. So, happy Throwback Thursday. Let's see if there's any more comments before we sign off here. Oh, that may be... I think I've heard of dithering mostly in the context of doing light art with like neopixels and stuff to more smoothly fade between colors. What is my hair doing? But it may also be called dithering as an alternative to halftone. I'm not sure. Oh wow, they even look like Daleks on the inside. Or I guess Daleks looks like those. Daleks may look... Definitely the War of the Worlds images came first, as evidenced by the fact that they're on this site. I think at this point that stuff from the US after 19 or before 1927 is mostly public domain. But anything that's on this site, no matter where it's from, is going to not that site. That's my Kycad thing. On the old book illustrations site, no matter where it comes from, is public domain, which is pretty great. Yeah, what is this? There's a great video of Iron Harvest, I think, with War of the Worlds type robots integrated in real videos. Oh, that sounds really cool. It kind of reminds me of Simon Stollenhag and similar painters who have taken like old school style paintings and mixed in sort of futuristic robot type things, or even sort of period appropriate diesel punk style robots and spaceships and other technology into sort of pastoral old school paintings. I've seen that done with paintings people got from thrift shops and stuff. Anyway, yes, a good picture of old age art robot is the one from the film Metropolis. I actually have checked that out. It's not yet in the public domain. It soon will be. I think that goes into the public domain next year, at which point maybe I'll come back and be like 101 years of robots, Metropolis PCB. I could just make one now just for me. Maybe I will. But there are some amazing stills of Metropolis that I've got taken screenshots of and stuff for my own nefarious purposes for future PCBs. Yeah, really amazing Art Deco. Amazing. Could go on forever about this. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll have this PCB back. We'll take a look at it. It'll be really exciting. And there's a pretty cool open source owl robot. Yeah, I could make a PCB of Archimedes. There's a couple other resources I just found. One by Trammell Hudson that allows you to turn 3D printable STLs into SVGs, which you could turn into like a line art drawing for a PCB. It'd look really cool. Too many ideas. Gonna be continuing to work on this and leveling up my skills. Thank you all for not immediately jumping on my very newbie circuit design. That I'll be leveling up as well in the next few weeks. But yeah, in the meantime, enjoy. A couple of recommendations for Kycad tutorials. Getting to Blinky by Chris Gemmell is a classic video series. And then also, our friend Brian Benchoff has a series on Hackaday of text-based articles, which my brain absorbs better, called Making a PCB in Anything or Design a PCB in Everything. It's something like that. And there's a version on Kycad, which is how I learned about making my own parts with both schematic symbols and footprints, which is very helpful. So it's a steep learning curve, but there's lots of good information out there. Good luck creating your own PCBs. Check out the old book illustrations and everything in the comments below, and hack on.